Congratulations. Thank you.
He had, out there where George Thompson lived, he had ground right there. Well, George Thompson rented. And he'd come out every year and say, now, how many fence posts did you buy this year? How much wire? George was telling me this. He said, Fritz, was one of them borrowed. He said, Fritz, you haven't bought a fence post and wire for 5 years. You don't have anything, but they were real tight in the ground.
Preserve this and record it so that they have a reference to go back to, and that it, you know, it comes from the heart and all of that. So
Similar to what John Murphy did with Building Memories books.
yeah,
We have done several of them. We're on number 8 or 9. And yeah, and that's similar to what we're doing here, only it's more of a round table talk session instead of, right?
Yeah.
So.
And we were talking about, I know schools, churches, groups in town, things like that. Any memories you have about that as you're looking at stuff? Interesting characters or people that you know. I thought about trying to remember the oldest person I could remember when I was growing up. Kind of reach back further in the history, you know. So, what do you got first, Janice?
where do you guys want to start? Because we're game. I mean, do you want me to hold pictures up and you can talk about? I'll tell you this. I'm interested, and I know you guys. It's probably old hat to you, but the Gantz name. And I only say that because I have rearranged things at the museum, and one of the things I came across was a fur coat, which I originally thought was a woman's fur coat. And then when I researched it to see when it was donated and everything, and it was actually the wedding fur coat that somebody, and I don't remember the first name, and I apologize for that because it's been months, but it was a Gantz, and it was their wedding fur coat that they wore for their wedding, and it was 1880 or 1890-ish. So, you know, I was like, to me that was fascinating. Then I came here and I'm like, Gantz, and I'm like, okay, well, that's some perspective.
One thing, Ben's in the Scout Building, there was a family called Walter Head that lived here at Stewartsville. The head place was right north of Stewartsville on the curve where Runyons live now. And the Boy Scout troop in the 20s was called the Walter Head Troop. Well, what's significant about Walter Head was that in 1929 he left. I mean, his folks lived here, and his sister lived here all her life. But he became national president of the Boy Scouts from like 1929 to up into the early 40s.
Wow.
Of the whole United, you know, the whole American Boy Scouts. So that's kind of I've got pictures of him and the story about him and all that stuff. But that goes back to, well, he was born in 18.
And that's a huge claim to fame, because Boy Scouts is a national organization that, you know, if somebody from a small town in Missouri rose to that status in a national organization like that, that's a big deal, especially back then.
Those are the two.
Very
that were homemade.
These two.
Yeah.
Okay. When we was growing up, the Gantz house next to the park, the big 2-story house.
Okay.
Cordelia and Marguerite Gantz lived there. They had chickens there. They had cattle out in the country. And Marguerite was sort of the outdoor person. Not Marguerite. Yeah, Marguerite was the outdoor person. And she kept the chickens in the yard, and she kept the cattle when I was in. And Cordelia was the sort of inside. They were spinsters, ladies lived there.
She always wore the dress. She wore the dress. The other one always had coveralls on when she was out.
She was a worker.
And Tuffy and Francis told me they had down in the middle of the park where the 4 sidewalks came together were peonies. And the dogs would get in there. And she was always complaining. They gave the land for the park, and Tuffy and Francis said they thought they owned the park. Well, they gave it to him, but those flowers, she was always complaining the dogs were in them or somebody was messing with the peonies.
They walked everywhere they went, nearly.
They probably ought to be out of the record.
They owned a beautiful 63 Chrysler, maybe, I remember. Beautiful, parked it in the driveway, or in the garage and everything every day. My twin sister and brother-in-law bought the house. And they lived to be over 100, both of them.
Wow.
And one, I think, was 104, maybe, and one over 100. And it was left to somebody, and they sold the house, and my brother-in-law and sister bought that house.
It's
Living in it today.
It's a beautiful house, it still is.
Yeah, it was a lot of work to do when they bought it, but yeah,
Where's it located? Where's the house?
next to the park. It's a great big
Right
park.
on the corner, you turn.
You can't miss it.
It'd be two-story house.
Yeah, flat ground porch.
Okay, yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
flat
That's
ground
my
porch.
cousin too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's what?
That's my cousin.
Yes.
I told Sharon that Walter Head was my cousin. That's my cousin.
Well, that's right.
I said, I'm related to everybody.
There was a little shed there that had a loft built inside the steps up to it. And that house, that shed, their grandparents lived in while they were building the house in the 1865 or somewhere in that era. And they tried to get somebody to come in and get the shed. It had to be torn down to get out of the way. When my brother, they couldn't get anybody to take the shed, so they finally just tear it down. And they always said, "Oh, you tore the shed down." Well, anybody wants it, you can have it, you know, come get it. So they finally had to tear the shed down.
Wow.
For their garages and things.
And
They
this-
still have two of the old buildings there. One of them was where they parked their old car, and that's where they parked their lawnmower stuff. And then there was another shed there that was like a coal shed, I believe. Had like coal shoes and stuff in it,
Right.
and that's her shoe shed. So,
I love that.
so yeah.
So this was probably one of the houses.
No, that was on the street,
Ain't that on the
south
street?
of the Baptist church.
There's three houses that they lived in still there. The other ones were,
I remember that because they were a kid. I feel like I remember when that happened. Oh,
yeah,
was it?
yeah, where they live.
Yeah,
It's got cans right on the sidewalk.
yeah. Yeah, I remember this house. That's right.
And where was it? I still trying to tell
The
you.
church is here. The parking lot. The Tuffy station is here. That road beside the DX. And then beside the DX, you go west, and it was in that block.
On the which side?
Well, it would have been on the north side of the street.
That-
Across from where Gauls lived. Or the Gaul were then.
But,
I
and but what's there now?
Nothing's torn down. This house is torn down. This house next to it is there. I think that blue house is there. But this house is torn down. Yeah, I remember this house specifically. I remember that.
This is Gans Block. They must own the whole block.
Which building is this? This is Gans Brothers.
Yeah, what do you remember about the store, though?
Well, and here's my question. So I'm looking at this copy of a Sandburn map. And so they had a lumber yard,
Yeah.
they had a dry goods store, they had
Everything.
a jewelry store, yeah, all these, I mean,
Yeah.
why was it not Danceville?
This is block, Gans block, so they can't
Yeah,
block.
I mean, it's like a whole block there, it's just store after store after store that, different Ganses. Oh,
Yeah.
I remember the dry goods store, and it had, it was like anything you could imagine was in there. And a lot of it was very old. They never.
If it didn't sell, it just
They
stayed.
didn't sell it and stayed there. And I know they had in the basement, they said when they finally sold out or something, it was just crates of lanterns, old lanterns that was in the basement that they had never sold, but they were, I don't know what happened to them. But, that store was just chock full of everything that you could think of. And most people didn't go to St. Joe in a lot of places. We came down here every Saturday night and got haircuts and did our stores were all open on Saturday night. We could go to the grocery store, and those kids would play tag out in the alleys. And the whole town was full, the side streets were full. You know, now on a Saturday night, you can't see one car.
So
And that's probably the way it was in a while.
The third Gantz sister married, and her husband was in a Aramco oil type thing, and they were $2 on side of radio. They were fairly wealthy. Well, they were all fairly wealthy, but they were really wealthy.
Tell us.
So on Saturday night, when everybody came to town, how late did the store stay open back then? I mean, did they close like at 8 o'clock, or was it 10 o'clock, or?
There was a lady whose husband was the barber. He stayed till 2 o'clock and sometimes longer.
Oh my goodness.
What kind of haircut you get too far?
About the same as you got 9 in the morning.
Everybody got the same. Sure.
We would have, they would have old, when I was growing up in the park, they had movies on Saturday night at the park. And I don't know if they had a sheet or what they had, the old, projectors with the,
8 millimeter or whatever.
yeah, 16,
16.
whatever it was.
I was gonna say, have
And
you?
all I remember ever had was one pocket. That's the only thing I ever remember.
There was, as I remember, I'm younger than all these guys. And, and I'm 73, if that tells you anything. But there was an appliance store. He repaired appliances and TVs, so we had TVs and an appliance store. And there was a couple of grocery stores, a drugstore, and had the old fountain, and all that. Hardware store, electric store, hardware.
Yeah.
Secondhand store.
I think we were, I don't know what the population was back then. Turn of the century, it's around 1,200 or something. Then they had a women's college here back in the 1800s.
Looks like there was a good sized hotel also on Main Street back in the day.
Something they called
This is from
Lux.
1914.
Yeah, they go back.
Had a dentist. I think this is my time, but he was old. In shape.
So Joe, that picture I just showed you, do you remember kind of what all those buildings are? Most of them, or some of them? You said there was a garage back further than that, that there was a picture?
Yeah, there was an old print shop. That's in his picture.
You know,
Old when I was very, very young.
Kolar blacksmith, it was in the corner of that lot, the blacksmith.
So across the street was
Now there was, let's see. That bank, American Bank, what is that called? Where the city hall was, that was the bank. Where the old city hall was. First name of Stewartsville was Tetherowtown. It lasted about 1858, is that right? Tetherowtown.
yeah, just a couple of years.
A couple of years, and then Stewart was a senator, I believe. He got the railroad to go through from St. Joe to Hannibal.
Huge.
So they named the town after Stewartsville.
Was Ted Town. In my
And the original house that he owns, his log cabin is still here. And it's called, there's a plaque on it, it says Tetherowtown. It's on the south side of the old railroad tracks.
It's been built around.
Yeah, so you
You
can't
can't
tell.
see them, you can't see them, but it's still there.
If you look at the windows, the sills are that wide. Because they're built around the log cabin. And Grace Warden, they live there, Wardens.
Yeah.
They live.
Bill Grace. And Grace, Bill Grace. And Grace.
Oh, that's more of his relatives.
And Grace and Bill.
Was that Bill Warden?
She was assistant to one of the students.
Bill Warden had a secondhand store when I was growing up.
Would be the Bill's mother or sister, my friend. That master's granddad, brother.
A couple more.
But I told somebody, my attic, my house, deed says 1890 something, but there's some boards that say Nancy printed on it. One interesting thing that doesn't have anything too much to do with this, but we took the Boy Scouts out to, well, it does in a way, out to Dodge City, Kansas. Went through old Dodge City, and I walk in this one little building, and it says, they have a calendar there, 1800 something. I got a picture of it someplace. It says, Yancey Brothers Lumber, Stewartsville, Missouri.
Really?
And it's in the little, the replica of the old
Right.
Dodge City.
Yeah.
It's hanging there on the wall. I
Wow.
could not believe it.
I can't believe it. I was out there and never seen that.
Well, the second time we went, it wasn't there. So I don't know if they changed their stuff out or what. I just can't believe it.
Yeah.
You wanna switch gears to school or something else to, some
Yeah,
school
let's-
pictures or anything?
Where did you start school?
Clyde, Missouri, way up north. We moved down here, later on it was Jefferson Consolidated. We moved down here the day after I graduated up there in '53. Then I went in the service right after that, and I moved back up there because I was working for the railroad up there. And then I didn't come back down here till '66, and then I lived out in the country till 1980, and then moved in town.
So you've been in town for several years now.
Well, yeah, I retired in '97 from the railroad, then worked over 20 years for the city after I retired first time.
Ronnie, how many years did you work for the railroad, the different railroads?
39.
39.
And you raise your family here or up there, or did you raise a family?
Well, down here.
Down here, okay.
Just talking about being called Hansville, you could almost call it Barville.
We are brothers. He's the most senior brother of the family, and I'm the most junior brother of the family. There was 11 of us total.
Oh my goodness.
My sister, then there was 7 boys, and then there was a set of twins, me and my twin sister, and then a younger sister.
And most of them stayed around here, right?
Most of them, my older sister lives in Liberty area for her life, and I lived in Kansas City about 40 years. But the rest of them mostly lived here, or within. Yeah.
But you all moved from Clyde down here?
I was 3, moved out in the country, and they started school here, all over the areas. So then, I think, probably 3 years later, we moved in town.
So your kids would have all gone to school at Stewartsville, no country schools, but
No country schools.
No country schools. Oh, sorry. There was a
But when I went to school up there, me and my sister, we walked 2 1/8 miles to school.
I think that's,
Rain, snow, it
didn't make any difference. And did it kind of run on farmer schedules where you got off for harvest and planting and that kind of? No, you still went.
Dad, he bought a farm, I think in 1948. He lived over by what's called San Antonio. And I went to a one-room school over there called the Cornelius School. The building is still there. Milton Olson bought it and had a house there. And he just died in the last few years. But there was a lot of rural schools around in the area that all, I don't know when that happened. In the 40s sometime, most of these rural country schools went into
50 or 51.
yeah.
Or in our area.
Yeah, so it was, when I started the school, would have been 48 over there, I guess. I went 1 year over there. We had 18 kids, and it was called Cornelius School, but guess what it was called? Guess how many kids? They were McManuses.
Yeah, I was thinking he was gonna say that because it was all in that area. Yeah.
I think Joe McManus, I don't know how many kids.
13.
Yeah, so a lot of them went to school there at that
Yeah.
time, so between Cornelius and McManus, that filled the school up.
Joe,
And
where did
we
you
walked,
start?
my cousins and we walked a mile right along 36 highway. And I was in the first grade.
I think the rule overall, from the research I've done at the Historical Society for Dekalb County, was that no child should have to walk more than about 2 miles. You know, if it was 2 1/4, that was close enough. But, you know, there were 80 some odd rural schools in Dekalb County at one time. And that's how they were situated, so that there'd be this little circle around them and you could come from any direction, but it wouldn't be more than 2 miles each way. Not a mile there and a mile back, but 2 miles there, like what you were saying.
Well, out in our area, there was, from my house, we lived, it'd be awful old now, but there was Cloverdale at one corner, and just a mile over was White Dove, I think. They were almost on
Was that
every mile or two, there was a schoolhouse.
Was that on Ogle Road now?
Ogle, the White
White
Dove, I think.
Dove was the one because Esther Stephen went there.
Yeah, and I think that's tore down now. And
Yeah,
then there,
it burned down.
over on Ralph Hyder's was another schoolhouse, and I think it's still there maybe.
The one on the corner of Ogle is still there because they actually kept it up. They don't live in it or anything, but they kept it up. So
Yeah,
it's-
I think that's called Cloverdale.
Okay. The commissioners are putting signs in each one of them schoolhouses. They've got a sign made for each one, and even if they're not there, they're gonna try to put a marker there so people can, if they want to. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some of them already up. There's a good number of them already
There
up.
is about.
Signs.
Yeah.
What was neat about that White Dove, I think it's White Dove, people would go in there and it was always all done, and it was getting run down, there was a blackboard. People would write their names and say, my grandfather lived here, and grandmother, and write their names on the blackboard.
Well, now, the one at Pleasant Grove, they still do that. And it's on,
Oh, is that on,
Yeah.
that's the one I've driven by just recently.
Yeah.
I forgot. that's
There was a
possible.
church there too.
Okay.
That's why the cemetery's there. But
Yeah.
our scouts have painted that building 2 different times.
Well, yeah, we helped on some stuff on it, our group, our packet group, the organization I'm in. We helped on some of it at one time too, and had a dinner there for them when they was painting.
Virginia Caldwell, whatever it is now. I know, but anyway, she's kind
I
of.
do too. Yeah, she's kind of head of it, yeah, Armstrong.
Okay,
Yeah.
Joe, where did you start school?
Maysville,
Maysville?
I went to Maysville 54 and 55, part of 57, but then Stewartsville 57.
What about you,
I
Sharon?
got the rest of my education there.
Where do you go?
I started out in St. Joe at Webster until I was 8, and then we came out to my grandfather's farm. He had passed away, and I came to Stewartsville. I graduated from there.
So you never had to walk 2 miles either?
No, but I did walk 3 miles once just because I was bored. My mother worked at J.P. Grimes, and she had already gone, and I just told her I'm gonna walk to school today, and so I walked down the road and came to her, and then somebody gave me a ride to town, I don't remember who, when I got in town.
Just to show you the difference, when I was superintendent over here, there was a boy and a girl that missed the bus. We didn't know it, they didn't show up at school. They lived a couple miles north of the highway there someplace. And anyway, about 9:30 here they came in school, they missed the bus, the folks were at work. And what scared us was they crossed 36 highway.
Oh, wow.
Both, and just walked to school, which was unheard of now because kids won't walk a block.
It's so true.
I've got a question. My mother always talked about there being a college
Yes,
in town.
yes. It's right across from the school football field, and all of those old cedar trees are part of that. I don't know how old they gotta be 100 and some years old.
Wasn't it just for girls at first and then?
Yeah, and on the corner, on the little road that goes down to my house, we call it Grandma Sprague. They had that house, and that was the girls' dormitory. And that was there for quite a few years. And it got tore down, and James Claycomb lives there now. But there was a big house there, and that was a dorm, girls' dorm.
And they eventually did let boys come too, didn't they? Eventually down the way, didn't they let boys come to that school also? I know for years they had it just girls, according to what I've seen.
That could be, I just always heard it was women's college, that's all I heard.
That's what I was saying. I think that's what's in the book.
You remember?
I always thought that'd be a neat place to put a flag or something, or, you know, a little.
It would, yeah.
Do you remember any of the teachers that you had that were in your memory from around here?
Oh, yeah. Ardell Klaus, she taught for, I don't know, probably 50 years, 40, 50 years. She was our first grade teacher.
She was my teacher. Her and Doris Klaus.
Did what?
First grade.
Yeah, I wasn't there that long, but I was only in it 1 year.
Ardell Klaus and Doris Klaus, who lived with
Doris Klaus,
and
she ruled a class. Continue.
there was DeVal, the chief, Todd, there was Offit, Mildred Gibson, Calvin, but that was after he came.
Maybe.
No, that would be her father-in-law.
Oh,
That would be her.
superintendent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is quite a building there. Yeah, it says male and female, but that is quite a building.
There's the ladies.
Is this a
There's
campus?
ladies boarding.
Is this a campus, Stewartsville?
I'd like to change the subject a little bit. Joe and I have had this project for the last 5 or 6 years. Does anybody remember the sign that used to be out on the highway that pointed toward Stewartsville?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Well, we would really like to have a picture of that. We can't find it anywhere.
You was really hoping someone had taken it down and put it in their garage and it's still there.
Yeah.
Other than that, a picture would be great.
And then also, there was an arch.
That's, yeah.
That's what I was talking about, take a picture of
Well,
that.
when you come down the end, it was pretty well there. The road came in behind all that stuff and ended up behind.
We want a picture of the
It
arch.
ended up behind where you used to live, that road that come in the street. And down there where Hadley's and down there on Dekalb Street,
That's how the street came in. But I don't remember that. I've been told that, and you can see evidence.
When you came into Stewartsville off of 36, it was straight up a big hill. It was, you see where that old motel is now? It was that high. Came right off of 36 up high, and on the corner was a gas station cafe, Molnex's, on the corner off of 36 and that road. Then when they built the new 36, that was all leveled out and taken away.
It had that arch.
And that arch is in Stewartsville.
Did that come out of St. Joe? Did somebody out of St. Joe send it out here? That's what we heard, I don't know for
The
sure.
what?
The
The
arch,
arch, was it from St. Joseph? And that's what we heard, is one of the parks or something donated out here.
Oh,
We
like,
can't find a
that, I
picture.
don't know anything about where it came from.
Yeah.
So what did it arch over? The road industry?
K was now K,
Okay.
with the state road, so it would be K now, I don't know what it was, I guess it was called that then, I'm not sure. That's our main street.
And Main Street, in the old days, went along the railroad track this way, not this way.
Really?
Well, way back then.
Before
Before our time. Before our time. It was always Main Street where it's at now, when I came in.
Then I heard,
Let's say 60 years ago, 65.
and I don't know if this is a wild story, but, right about the time the railroad come in, 1860s, Civil War was going on, and there was, somebody had I don't know if it's the Union Army or the Confederate, but somebody had a flag they didn't like along the railroad and they shot the guy. Did you ever hear that story, Joe?
Yeah, they have a favorite flag, it's flying, Union soldiers that were on the train and went on and shot the
The
guy.
Union soldier shot the guy that had the flag, whatever it was, Confederate flag.
That's awful.
But that was 18, that had been during the Civil War.
The depot was there, and the train came through town when I was first here. When I was first grade, we took a field trip to St. Joe, across the quarter. The first grade did, and then my second grade, we took a field trip to Cameron, on the train, right out of Stewartsville.
that's very cool.
And I missed it, I came out the year they had already had it, and that was the last one.
My sister, who is 9 years younger, they went, when they were in the fourth grade or fifth or something, they went to Chicago on the train. Unbelievable.
Yeah, unbelievable. In the First World War, I don't remember this, I was told this by Benita Mattingly. She was one of the Snow's family that was here. And her, Nell Snow ran the bank for a lot of years. But she married a man who was a dentist. And they were celebrating downtown at night that the World War I was over, had been settled. And her husband got a induction notice right then, telegram, to be inducted into the Army. And he had to go until they got it resolved and then came right back. But, I mean, it was like, the war's over, well, we gotta go. I remember her telling that story, she was practically hysterical when it happened.
This might be a wild story, but right up here on the hill where Mary Kay lived, shoemaker right there, Gordon Hyde told me, in 1917, and I don't know if there was anything there, the Ku Klux Klan burned a cross right there on that property. And I don't know if that's a wild story, but that's what he told me.
Who told you that?
Gordon Hyde. And I don't know, of course, the Ku Klux Klan was very active up in the 20s. They had a parade in New York that had like 75,000 in a parade. They were very open in those days. But whether or not there was one in town, that's all I know.
So was there an African-American community in Stewartsville? Yes.
Yeah,
So
so
wasn't it invited?
east side of town. There was, I think, a black barber, there was a EMU church, I think that's in here someplace.
in the book.
It talks about it in the book, like church.
And isn't there part of the cemetery that,
Yeah, the older part is the Stewartsville Cemetery, they buried all the black people to the east. They had it separated.
Well, one of the reasons I'm here today, in 1940, my parents were married, and they counted their weddings over there on those papers. And they moved down here to first house north of Steve Fagan's and started farming. They were real rich. They had $200 and some horses and pigs, things like that. And I came along a year and a half later. I'm now 83, if anybody wonders. But,
got me beat by a year,
so we lived there for 3 years. And W.D. and Vera Hendricks moved there after we lived there. And Bonnie was born there. But we moved to Maysville in 1944. And when I was born, Sharon's grandmother came by to see me, because they were friends with a lot of people in the community. Remember that. But then we moved to Maysville, farmed up there, graduated from Maysville, started 4 years at the country school. Walked 1 1/10 mile because I measured it with the GPS over those years.
I used to say too, you know.
So, and I was, always wanted to be a farmer, and farmed all my life, still do, sort of, just don't do much. But, one day I was in Maysville and I saw this attractive girl that kind of interested me. And, anyway, her grandmother came by to see me, but she never did see her grandmother.
She died the year before I was born.
So anyway, that's it. Well, I'll say a little more too. We always talk among ourselves. Half the people in Stewartsville we're related to, and I'm related to, and the other half she's related to. Because my grandmother was a Bower, and the Bowers were also one of those big families. And so they lots and lots of relatives. She's related to the Hendricks and all the rest of the people around here. Most of them.
You know, in the old days too, the community kind of surrounded, and there was a lot of country churches. You were asked about the churches. We attended Ridgeville United Methodist Church, and it was kind of just known as a Ridgeville community. And then there was a Maple Grove community, and it was kind of the community where people all gathered for church. Or went to town on Saturday night, that was about it.
Were there, like today we have, Maysville has Country Harvest, Stewartsville has their yearly festival. Fall festival. What things did they have around here that people just gathered annually or whatever to go to? Or, I don't know if it's a fair. Or,
You know when the fall festival
We
started?
used to have 4th of July something here.
Yeah.
That's something 4th of July, Stewartsville, but I don't.
When I was growing up, there was a fall festival. They showed cattle. I was in charge one year getting the judge for the cattle. And we got a pen there on the back part of the park, and they had what they call a tractor rodeo.
Yeah.
Where you take the old hay frame, and try to back it in like this parallel park, except you did it with a tractor and a wagon. And I remember they had bales of hay around Main Street, and they had go-kart races. But every little Clarksdale, Osborne, Stewartsville, probably Maysville. As a kid, when I got my driver's license, that's where, you know, that was a big deal. We go to Clarksdale picnic, you know, or we go to Osborne picnic. So that all those old towns had
Picnics.
events, you know.
Very fun.
But I don't know back in the old days. The real old days.
About to swallow a coffee cup.
Starting from around the church, Maple Grove, and they would take the paddle to town on that road and go to the, no, not the stockyards.
Railroad.
Where the train came in.
Yeah.
And they load them up and that everybody was setting aside and letting them do it. But I thought that was very strange that they would go that far on the main highway.
Well, my grandfather, they moved from Tipton, Iowa, and if I got the story straight, they brought the cattle, birds, and everything on the train. Kid, where they lived. So that was something.
You're talking about the country churches, you all know I ride as a little farmer, but a lot of times, these small towns, like Santa Rosa, the last one I rode out, and they would have around 100 people on Sunday for church. And now, almost all the country churches, for us senior citizens, and have trouble keeping them, so. It was a slow day in some of those country churches, 50 and 60 people.
We used to have camp meetings out, which was, it wasn't at the same location, Camp Far West, but we had one here on the border again. And the merchants in town would come out and put up big tents, they didn't have any buildings, they put up big tents. Everybody, well, did I give you that letter that Helen Matter, or Archie Johnson wrote, Helen Matter? Their Sunday school, thanking them for participating. So a lot of the different churches all go down to the camp meeting, which is kind of a thing of the past.
Well, they were close communities back then. Didn't travel that far. But they were very, everybody knew their neighbor.
There's another thing that was sort of fascinating me when Mom and her brother, Uncle Johnny, lived in the big house. They had snow, and it snowed, and it snowed, and they were supposed to go to school the next day. They got out their snowshoes and went over the,
Fences,
yeah,
yes.
to school, and nobody said anything, and everybody expected them to be there.
My dad did that, when he was going to the schoolhouse, he had, he went to school and they put it over because it's not, under the rain, and they put it over. So it still is that tall.
It was a deep snow.
Yeah, my saddest thing I think is going back to the churches, just seeing them all those down. You know, it just kind of makes you sad.
There's not much of downtown left here. The last few buildings before, where the old railroad track was, somebody's taken it, redone it, it's the real.
Yeah.
that was against, I believe that was against the road. And so they had to tear it down, because it just, you know, the brick had deteriorated, the mortar. So,
Towns are just kind of a thing of the past.
It's interesting because it seems like most of the small towns that I've researched, one of the very first things they did was get a church. And then they would sometimes use that church as a schoolroom as well. And then, you know, they would build on that. But faith seemed to be the thing that brought people together and, you know, built a community. So.
they would have harvest dinners, bazaars, I think
Yeah, they
I
did.
know Ridgeville did, and I think, Clarksville still, some of them do that. But it's just, everybody together, and they would have dinner, you know, I remember Ridgeville, there'd be, Orville, Joey Hill, Bill, all the merchants would come out and eat dinner.
That's a nice church.
And they had women's circles, and those women would quilt, and they would, you know, if somebody was having a baby, they'd get the together for them, and, you know, all those things. I mean, it was a big part of who you were and how you grew up.
And the family was the nucleus. Each family was the nucleus of the family.
And we always sit down to dinner together and, you know, now today, people run in so many different ways that they just don't happen a whole lot anymore. I mean, it's a different world we live in, that's for sure.
Well, my mother, all three of them never drove a car.
Daryl's mom never did either.
Mother never, she would drive the truck once in a while, Dad was unloading hay on the farm, but she never did drive. And then my other two aunts, they learned to drive way after they were married. And one didn't learn to drive till her husband got sick, and she was like in her 60s. She hadn't driven before, and she learned to drive.
Wow.
The women just wasn't taught, I guess, back then because.
Well,
girls' mom
in high
was-
school, even when I graduated, there was, I don't think there was a single girl had a car. Of course, all the guys did, or a lot of them did.
Mom didn't learn to drive till she got married. She never had driven, and I think she was probably in her 40s because I know I was born about 55, so. Anyway, she didn't learn to drive till she married Dad, and then she finally did,
Yeah.
so.
Ronnie, David, you said you moved here to Stewartsville in 1953. Was your father, Charlie, a bulldozer operator at that time?
Yes, he worked for Grimes at the time.
You might say a little bit about the Grimes construction, or far Grimes and then far.
Yeah. Well, I don't know a lot about that part of it. I just remember that Grimes built his own construction company, you know, started working for somebody and then had a partner and then finally became himself. And, they lived in, I think, one time in Kansas City, then St. Joe, and then finally out here in the country themselves. And they had a shop over there that was tore down because of, where was it at? There by,
36, that route, where you turn to go north to June.
right there, yeah, and then, and 36 took it out, and the new 36, so then they built a new shop right out here. It's out there now, B&R Diesel's in it now, or that area. And, so my dad worked for him, and several brothers worked for him as bulldozer operators. Chuck did, and Jim did, and Lonnie worked for him every now and then, really. And, eventually he retired, sold out. My brother started it. Three of them started a bulldozer operation and run it for 40 years. It was kind of kept in the family.
The hedgerows and the ponds out on my dad's farm, it might have been still Grimes, but no Charlie was part of that.
And If my dad did it, it was still Grimes. Yeah. He worked for him until my dad died.
They did the dirt work on East Hills and.
Yeah, they did East Hills, St. Joe Controls, Stonecrest,
College.
College. Yeah, college. They did all that dirt work. The little golf course, what's it called out there? Mini golf.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a picture on the wall out there for years. That was my dad next to a bulldozer. And when they sold it, I tried to go out and get that picture, and they said, "Oh, we don't know about that." Everything kind of changed around, and they looked for it, couldn't find it. I was so disappointed. Should have found it over there. But just happened to be there playing golf one time, and I went, "That's my dad." They go, "Yeah, he was up there." So they did a lot of stuff to take a lot. That's a big deal.
Starting in the 70s, there was, Special Brothers built a lot of the houses, especially on the east side of Main Street, and, well, some of them on the west. Some of the ranch-style houses they built.
I'd say the majority of them there.
Well, yeah, quite a few. And they built houses in East, or Stonecrest too.
This street that ties into St. Joe Avenue, this is St. Joe Avenue, is called Gant Street. It goes to the highway. I built a house there, back to town. I didn't build it, somebody built it for me. I don't know when they would name that Gant Street, when was that?
Way back before 9/11, or 9/11, there was a lot of roads were named.
Yeah. They had a special push to name a lot of them for emergency response, didn't they? If you didn't have a name on your road for the rescuers to come to, I know around, I was up in Kirksville area that time, and yeah, you had to have a name on your street.
Yeah.
Made a big push, so maybe that's where they were doing it.
I know one time at Osborne, I ordered something in the school, it was box 1, that was all, that was your address. And so this lady said, well, they can't deliver it to box 1, they gotta have your address. I said, well, we're on M Highway, we're on M Blacktop off of 36. But what's your, I said, we don't have it, it's just box 1. I said, if you send it to Osborne, Missouri, they'll find the school. And she says, what's it like to live in a place like that?
I remember reading in one of the books about the old phone numbers or ads where there was just 2 numbers or something on the phones and stuff. You guys didn't have any information on the phones and stuff back when you was growing up? When did it come in?
We had a long and 2 shorts, that was our,
Okay.
that was our number.
Okay, I was in St. Joe, and I had a dial phone, and then we moved to the farm. We had a crank phone, and it was a shared
Party line? Kind of?
party line, and us kids loved to pick that up and hear what was going on. I had 2 older brothers, and I followed their instructions, but it was just completely different, because we had that until probably almost, I went to high school, but not quite.
Wasn't one of your grandmas an operator?
That was it, Byron's grandmother was.
Oh, Barb, okay. Yeah, she was an operator here in town. And I remember Mom told a story once that one of the boys was downtown, called Mom at home, and just picked up the phone and said, "Give me Mom." And she rang Mom. They could tell who it was, I guess. I don't know which boy it was, but I remember her telling that.
You know,
The operator told her that.
on those party lines, there would be several of them talking to each other. I remember mother and several neighbors would just be on there. And, or sometimes you'd get a call, and if you didn't hang up, if you just waited a minute, you'd hear click, click, click. People were listening, you know. But I remember Dad, if he broke apart or needed to call early forward or something, he'd say, this is Ellen, I want to could you ladies hang up a minute, I gotta get a part over. You know, they would just be, it wasn't cell phones in those days, it was party lines.
They'd just be carrying on a conversation and he needed to park. So he needed to say, get off.
Get to,
What kind of old cars did you have back then? When did you start getting your car, first car
I think Byron has a stool that was in the central's office. It's in the kitchen. And it's in there now. He said, that ain't really in the central office.
oh, there was a guy here in town, Smith, he had a Model T drove around. Dave, was it Dave Smith? Do you remember? He'd drive that Model T around, first I remember that. And of course, there was a lot of old trucks, stock trucks and stuff.
You really, I worked at the grocery store, we delivered groceries on Saturday. And elderly people call and give their grocery order, bring change for a $20 bill, and I want blue toilet paper or blue Kleenex or whatever, and they're very particular. We were lying saying, don't give them anything except what they want, no substitutes. I was just 13 or 14, and they take it to their house and give me this much, and they had change for 20. They asked for it.
Ballinger had, no, Lana had.
Lina had stolen when I was young.
Ballinger had it for a while.
Mhm.
West Ballinger. Speaking of $20 or whatever it was, Mom would put money out and put a letter out there, and she didn't have stamps, so she put some money there. And the carrier would make change, I guess, take the letter and leave her the change. You know? She put a dime in there, and maybe it was 3 cents for the stamp. There'd be 7 cents left there. I mean, that was rare, she didn't do that all the time.
Snap it on there with a clothespin. Stuff like that. We were talking about construction a while ago. Who built the Starlight restaurant?
That was Spencer Brothers. Willard
Spencer was.
Willard Spencer.
Starlight Motel, it was a hotel restaurant.
A lot of things.
He lived on Main Street West, I think, Willard did. One of those houses.
Yeah.
He built a shelter. A lot of people had caves for fruit in the old days, but he built a fallout shelter back there behind.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, because that was, during that era, you know, we thought the Russians were going to bomb us.
Starlight Restaurant was a motel and a destination for a lot of people.
Mhm.
Very, very busy place for years.
The big truck line came through here and was it PIE?
Yeah.
Line, and that's where they stayed. So that was a stopping point for some reason, I'm not sure why. But the motel and the restaurant was very busy because of that truck line. When that ended, and they started going up to I-80 instead of 36, it was the end of that. Pretty much just stopped. I think the restaurant was a good restaurant. People from St. Joe came out and ate there and everything, Sundays and stuff. It was a nice place originally.
They had the big sign, Star.
Yeah, it's
Rotating.
It's still there, but it looks terrible. All the buildings are about to fall in or something,
The Star is gone. Somebody bought the Star.
but the rest of the sign is all falling apart and looks bad.
Yeah, the whole place is bad.
The guy that owned it,
Not gonna put a dime in it. That's kind of unfortunate.
You had the Kohler blacksmith shop for a lot of years.
I was here in town until, not that long ago, 20 years maybe ago.
yeah, the blacksmith, and I don't know his name, but Rouse Dad had a blacksmith at Ammon. And his son came down here and had this one. Then Wayne had the one in Maysville, and now Daniel is there. So that's 4 generations of blacksmiths, all coal miners.
That's in Maysville.
Yeah, that's where Wayne
Right,
was.
so Wayne's.
And he's got Wayne.
Right, so Wayne's.
And he's got it spelled the German way, however you spell it.
Like I said, the spelling has changed.
K-O-H-L, something, E-J-U-R, something.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
Well, we have a lot of people that are still in the community, but then, like me, I lived in Maysville all my life. But I don't know anybody that wanna go to town anymore. Same way down here, I'm sure.
Yeah. I lived in Kansas City for almost 40 years, and finally, after I retired for a few years, I finally came back up here, and everybody's talking about some family living in so-and-so. Who lived there before that? Well, so-and-so. Well, how about before that? So-and-so. Now I know where it's at. Back a few generations, I could figure it out, but I was totally lost on the last 3 full generations, if not 4.
Well, that's like we talk about 911. All you gotta do is drive north of that big oak tree, turn right there, and you go over to the barn that's fallen down, and you go south a little bit, and you go south east again till you find another pine tree.
Yeah, an oak tree in there, oak tree corner north of Maysville, the oak tree's gone, but everybody still calls it oak tree corner, up there by Birds, north of town.
The hard part's when they say, over where the Johnsons used to live.
Yeah.
I never knew the Johnsons.
That was a different time. Worked at the grocery store when I was 14 or 15, I think 15 maybe. And it closed at 6 on Saturdays. And so she couldn't hardly wait to get out. And then one shopper in particular came in about 5:45. Whole basket of stuff by the time they got out and packing out. So we just wanted to go home. Well, as a kid, I want to play. And we're to do something fun.
I know my dad, on the Dickerson, he had a team of horses, but all I ever remember, and then the neighbor had horses, Castles, Elwood Castle. And I remember, only time I ever drove them was when we'd have oats, be thrashing oats, and I'd drive it up to the barn, But I don't remember anyone ever using the horses to do any farm work, except maybe pull a wagon or something. That's all I remember.
So we had a couple neighbors who never did have a tractor. They just used horses. But despite all these changes we're talking about, these rural areas are still a good place to live.
Oh, yeah.
So about when did it change? So you were talking about in the beginning that town on Saturday, everything was open, it was open late, they were cutting hair till 2 o'clock in the morning. And then you're saying when you were 15, the grocery store was closing at
10. Or 6 on Saturdays.
6 on Saturdays. So when did that change? Then people started going, I mean, was it about like the late 60s, you think, or early 70s? When did that start? Instead of everybody came into this town, into Stewartsville, and that was their Saturday night, they started going a little further, you know, and transportation probably has something to do with it.
Middle section.
Probably very, very.
That wasn't that section when I went to the grocery store.
Yeah.
In 66.
Yeah, I graduated in 60, and they still did that daily, but then I went to college, so after that, I don't remember before that.
I think when my brothers were up in Clyde, that area, they went over Saturday night to Stanberry, and everybody was there. Kids would watch the movie while the parents were grocery shopping and visiting. And they came back. I remember them talking about that. That would have been in the late 40s, early 50s. We never had anything to do here as kids. We didn't have no movies, we didn't have no pool, we didn't have nothing.
I was gonna ask you,
Bicycles up and down the street.
I was gonna ask if there was ever a movie theater.
Yeah, well, I'm assuming there was a minute pond, riding bicycles up and down the streets.
Well, one thing we did get, when the twins were born, by the supermarket Stanbury, if anybody had twins, they got 52 pounds of butter. So that's where we're going to shop at Stanbury, Saturday night, and they stayed open till about midnight. People do the shopping, stand on the sidewalk, and I think Mom got 2 pounds a week at the grocery store to use it all up.
See, I was worth something.
That's very cool.
There was a guy, I think, that John Peters, didn't he, somebody, you know, if a heel came off your shoe or it was worn, you had a cobbler, so it's called. Yeah, and they could repair your shoe, put a new heel on it, or sole or something.
I suppose that Stewartsville newspaper was better than that print shop that sent that picture. I suppose it was a print shop when I moved here. I don't know when they stopped doing the paper, but.
And that stuff was in that little corner of that Colar's there for years, just sitting there, just, you know.
The whole thing's vacant lot now. You know, trees next to the post office.
Stewartsville has its own newspaper.
Probably all towns have that kind of stuff, I guess.
So,
Self-sufficient. Or should
still pretty well self-sufficient.
Well, that's where you got your news, because, you know, no TV, or not till 50s anyway, somewhere in the 50s.
Mom and Dad got one in 55, I know, because I was born that year, and they first got their first TV, so.
And then you weren't getting local.
Yeah, just one picture.
What's going on in
Yeah.
town, you need a newspaper for that.
Yeah, you didn't get any. And all you could watch was I Love Lucy.
We had the Watkins that had the sawmill.
Oh, yeah.
And, Sam Watkins, sheared sheep, or I don't know.
John, or Larry Watkins told me, he ran it after John, but I asked him, I said, what about Watkins Mill down here at Lawson? And he said, well, somehow we are related. That's quite a historic place down there. They had a old mill.
Grain mill.
Well, they had a sheep, wool, yarn, all that. But he said somehow they are related.
I know Galen's got a lead here.
Yeah.
Well,
He's got a wedding to go preach at.
Yeah, and I don't know how long
open house in the wedding here.
yeah. Well, I mean, we've got a lot of good stuff, and I know that, I wanted to say that I heard as you're talking, some of you say, I wish we had a place to display Stewartsville memorabilia and things like that. And there's quite a bit at the Historical Society on Main Street in Maysville. We wish we had more room to display everything.
We do.
Janice is the curator, and she rotates things out for display. But if you go, you can look through stuff for hours probably.
I could live there and not get through everything that's in that building. It's amazing. The amount of,
Some weeks in the summer she does live there.
yeah. I have taken weeks where I've been there from like 8 to 8 for several weeks in a row.
Yeah.
There's just so much there.
But if you wanted to come, the main times they're open. Wednesday's a great day to come.
They're open Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, from
Tuesday and Thursday, we're there from 4 o'clock. That's not our hours, but we're there.
Or if you have family in town that wants to go make a day of it, just call the stuff.
yeah.